The British government is corrupt. I don't know if that'll come as a surprise to anyone watching this video, but that's obviously the case. There's been a story that's come out recently that, of course, has been all over the news. But a lot of us have been saying, that this is a government that is really exceptionally corrupt for quite some time. I mean, there's been, sleaze and corruption scandals in previous governments, both Labour and Conservative before. New Labour certainly had a lot of dodgy stuff over their 13-year tenure in office. The Thatcher and Major ministries had a lot of that. It's been there, but this is kind of next level, this government, it really is. An MP by the name of Owen Paterson, Conservative, was paid about £500 an hour, right, to advise for a company called Randox. Then afterwards, after he was paid this massive amount of money, Randox won a £133 million contract for COVID testing without any other firms even getting a chance to bid. So they didn't just beat out the competition in that sort of bidding process where the government looks to see who's kind of going to be able to best provide that service. They literally were the only ones that got a chance to bid. The government then made Randox tests mandatory for travel. And Randox reported that their revenues skyrocketed, up 85% on the previous year. This is obviously corruption, right? Because Paterson had received money from this company and was now advising the government to treat that company favourably and give them enormous amounts of public money. That's your money, remember. That is the taxpayers' money. But it doesn't stop there. So Marina Purkis on Twitter did a great thread on this. And she mentioned some of the other kind of incidences that Randox has been involved in. The police force actually suspended all their contracts with Randox after discovering that there was a most serious breach of forensic science standards. But of course, they still won a £133 million government contract with zero competition. They've received millions in other government grants. Yet when a freedom of information request was made to understand how much was there, when there was a freedom of information request to say, all right, okay, well, what exactly is this money? Where is it coming from? Who's funding this? How much money exactly? What use is it being put towards? The Department for Trade said, sorry, we can't do that because unfortunately, that'd be too expensive to provide that information. So the UK government won't spend a small amount of money to ascertain and publish the details of government finances going out to private contractors, but they will have enough money every single day of the week to spend hundreds of millions of pounds on contracts to those companies that obviously aren't particularly good at the job. Of course, as we've seen, breaking that, or having a more serious breach of forensic science standards. And it keeps going. The Rugby Football Union and the Premiership Rugby ended their relationship with Randox as well after being affiliated with them for a little while. And that was because Randox was responsible for multiple errors that saw false positives in drug testing for a number of Bath rugby players. I believe it was drug testing. And of course, that is a very serious mistake to make. So why is this an even worse corruption scandal than normal? Because we talk about this a lot on the show, that there's, the government is handing out massive amounts of public contracts to people who, finance their luxurious lifestyles. Conservative Party donors magically get these massive contracts, and then they provide a very, very poor service, right? The track and trace system run by Serco is a fantastic example of that. We spent far more than other countries, like Germany, for example. Germany, I think, spent only a few tens of millions of euros on their track and trace system, which was more public and grounded in kind of local authorities. And we spent tens of billions. Most of it was going, or at least a lot of it was going to, these really, really, really quite tasty wages for some of the people working for Serco. So this happens a lot, right? It's disgusting and it's disgraceful, and it shouldn't happen, but it happens a lot, and nothing really gets done. But why is this one really grabbing people's attention? Well, it's because a parliamentary committee found that Paterson had broken the rules. He'd broken the rules, and at the very least should resign, right? The absolute bare minimum, he should resign or be sacked, right? He should not be a public representative. He's a public servant. That's what an MP is supposed to be. And clearly he's serving only the interests of himself and the people who financially back him and, make him a very, very wealthy person. And then obviously nothing's happened there. And now the government are trying to change the way that operates, so that now it's basically harder to find someone in breach of various codes of conduct when it comes to finances and corruption and influence and things like that. So not only do we have this ridiculous corruption scandal where 133 million quid has gone to this company who haven't provided a good enough service, who obviously won it through corruption, through essentially bribing a politician. Let's just call that what it is, right? You're giving loads of money to a politician and they are acting very favourably towards you. What else can we call that other than bribery, other than corruption? Not only is that happening, but now the government is basically overruling the findings that this in fact is a breach of conduct, and are planning on changing the rules permanently to make it a lot harder for someone to be found guilty of those things, to make it a lot easier for people to get away with corruption, and it's already easy. So this story is just, it feels like a culmination really of the levels of kind of sleaze and in some cases nepotism and cronyism that have been very, very prominent in the actions of this Conservative government since Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. Like I said, the politics has never been squeaky clean in the UK. It just hasn't, and the vast majority of countries in the world have issues with that, some far worse than others. But this is just, politics has fallen very, very far, very, very quickly. And I think, we all knew when Boris Johnson was elected that he was a bit of a Doyle. But I don't think we knew that he was, to the extent to which everyone around him would be embroiled in such obvious corrosions of basic democratic principles, right? I certainly didn't think it would get that bad. Will anything happen? Probably not. No. Labour are pushing it very hard. Keir Starmer has actually said the big word. He's actually called it corruption rather than calling it sleaze or cronyism as he has done in the past. And I do think that's a good step. But is anything going to change? Probably not. Probably not. Interestingly enough, one of the signs that a major societal decline is occurring is, of course, rampant, unchecked and unpunished corruption in positions of great power and wealth. And we have that right now in the UK. And obviously it's really rife in America as well. Two countries that, talk the talk constantly about, ending corruption, you know, through the UN, and about how they're great democracies, beacons of liberty and things like that. But you can't have a democracy when politicians are getting bribed, essentially. You know, you can't. We have to get money out of politics, well and truly. Make a much more robust system of rules. Yeah, and I think political donations need to be way scaled back to the point where, you know, you can't donate more than £5,000 as an individual or as a group to a political party or organisation within the space of a month or less. And I also think, I mean, obviously we need to make it so that MPs can only have one flow of income, and that is as an MP, right? Because, you know, otherwise issues start to occur and their interests start to come from elsewhere. So yes, I'm interested in your thoughts. You know, what do you think? What do you think should be done to solve this issue? And do you think it will have any ramifications for the government? I think it won't, unfortunately. I have been wrong before, so hopefully, you know, something does actually come of this. I think that's the first time I've called Boris Johnson a Doyle on camera, and I think I should do that more often. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.